Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Although by the time you're watching this, it probably isn't evening because this is a pre-recorded video. We are pre-recording some segments here because I'm going to be gone off and on for a few weeks over here at the summer, taking some vacation time. And so we're recording some segments in advance, and we're going to do something a little different than we've usually done. Our new season is season 3. We switch seasons every 14 episodes. I don't know why we decided to do that, but we did. And so we're coming up on the 14th episode of the season 2 at the time of filming. By the time you're seeing this, it would have already happened, because I believe that's tomorrow. And so we're going to kind of use these segments to introduce season 3 to you guys. And over this next week, I'll kind of feather them out through the week so that you guys have some content to go off of. But essentially, this video at least is going to introduce season 3, all the topics we're going to talk about, and then we're going to have one or two other, maybe more segments that will be coming out in the future. So I'm joined here with Matthew over here.
What's up, everybody? I'm so ready for this.
The producer of the podcast.
Yeah, I haven't been behind the camera
in a long
forever.
time.
It's been hogged by Cameron, Alex, everyone else.
All the guests.
All the guests.
Yep.
I'm thankful to be here again since season 1.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The OG.
I've been talking in the background, and I barely put my camera on, like, every now and then. And I'm like, am I even part of the podcast anymore? I'm like,
Absolutely.
I just talk. I'm just like, I talk,
work,
I make it work.
Yeah.
And now I'm back, and now it feels weird.
So, yeah, we're going to be talking about some interesting stuff in this segment. First, I'm going to have Matthew read start reading off the list of topics. We're going to start
number
with the
1.
first we'll start with the theme of the season 3.
All right, the theme, the quest for meaning. Although we've been kind of touching upon it in other seasons, but this time we're delving deep. So, for the first topic, can I introduce it, Joe?
Sure.
So, the necessity of destruction and creation.
All right, so let's talk about that.
Do
you have any idea of what I mean by that?
When I was reading these, I was like, that's a Joe thing to say. And I was like, I'm pretty sure he already thought about it in his mind,
Yep.
and he already has it planned out. So, when I thought about that, the necessity of destruction and creation, it took me back to like the Bible. And I'm pretty sure we're going to talk about the Bible. And that's pretty much
not where my mind went.
That's not where your mind went?
My
mind went where the Bible.
It did after a little bit.
After a little bit
of thinking. But originally, the reason I came up with this idea particularly is because I was listening to a guy named Jordan Peterson.
He never talks about him.
Oh, never. And I was listening to, he's doing a podcast series where he's going through all of the rules he has he calls it his 42 rules for life. And he's written 2 books on it so far, each with 12 rules each. And I was listening to the rule he was talking about. If I can find it here in my notes.
This is Joe's Bible.
No, it's not. Do not carelessly denigrate social institutions or artistic achievement. And so what he was talking about in the podcast with this specific point, do not carelessly denigrate social institutions. Well, that's a critique of the left side of the political aisle, and that's saying they have a tendency towards breaking things down.
Okay.
That they don't like.
I would disagree with.
And protesting these long-held traditional institutions like marriage, like stuff like that.
Oh, that's what you mean by, I was like, institutions.
Like
things we hold dear, social
institutions. Yeah.
They want to deconstruct things that have held up society for this long.
So then on the opposite side of that, there's also the conservative tendency to denigrate artistic achievement. And by that, he means that's like the creation side of it. So this is where I had the idea for, the dichotomy of creation and destruction. And if you really think about it, and we'll get into this in the actual podcast when we talk about it, creation versus destruction, I don't know if they're really different. I think there's an argument to be made that they could be one and the same thing. They might still be a dichotomy, but I don't know if you can have one without the other. I don't know if you can create without first destroying, or you definitely can't destroy without first creating.
It's like the classic just yin and yang. You have to have both. And this is like shadow and light. I
was reading my own paper on religious symbology, and that's actually a dichotomy is an important one. But I wrote this in my freshman year of college, and I would have a field day revising it
Mm-hmm.
because I believe I wrote this at 2 a.m. the night before it was, or the day before
The
it was
best
due.
things, actually, the worst things happen at 3 a.m. The best things happen at 2 a.m.
Honestly, I'm
That's
really
my
proud
quote.
of the paper, but my grammar in some parts is atrocious.
See, Joe, it's like you say, is like you trying to get across the idea, you have it all in your head, but like the
Yeah.
execution and communication is
The
the
problem
only
with
thing
this
that
one,
stagnates or not stagnates is wrong.
yeah, the problem with this one was I was trying to coalesce so many ideas into one paper. Like each one of the points that I cover could easily have like one or more papers on them individually. But anyway, I digress. Why don't you read the second point?
I got you. I got you. Adventure and habit. Ooh, two in the same sentence. What do you mean by that, Joe? Can you elaborate?
I can. So, adventure and habit. This is going to be episode 2 of the podcast. All goes according to plan. And so this is I kind of thought of it as a dichotomy, but it might not be. But in my mind, I kind of thought of it as a dichotomy. I don't think that I'm using the word habit right, but the idea that I'm trying to come across to, that I want to talk about in that podcast, is this concept of, especially with men, they kind of crave this adventure.
All
you
men
know?
do. Yeah.
And I have a feeling that has something to do with meaning and purpose. But ultimately, whatever the cause of it, a lot of men crave adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And
So many people like Indiana Jones. That is a
yeah,
classic American
yeah,
tale adventure. You get the girl,
yeah.
stuff like that.
So maybe that's why. Maybe it's appealing to be on an adventure because
It's masculine.
It's masculine, or it's the masculine urge to maybe attract a mate or something
That
along
exactly
those
is like
lines.
that.
But it's also just fun.
It's
You
a
know,
lot of
it's
fun.
a
Yeah,
thrill.
it's a thrill of doing something new, dangerous,
Yeah.
but
So the
enough.
reason I wanted to talk about habits along with that
Mm-hmm.
is because that's kind of it's different than an adventure. It's something that can kind of keep you um, from an adventure. And the way that I'm thinking about it is, to have an adventure, you kind of have to be you have to kind of be in a state of not really not rigid. You know what I mean?
Not rigid. No.
You can't. So to go on an adventure, you need to, things are going to come at you. You need to be kind of in a constant state of change or state
Yeah.
of flux. And so it's kind of breaking or relegating, is that the right word? These habits that you
Okay.
form throughout your life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the adventure is kind of something that can produce this meaningful change and self-betterment.
Mm.
And to do that, you sometimes have to break some bad habits that you have, and maybe even by forming new habits. But that's why I wanted to kind of talk about
It goes
at the same
back to
time.
our first topic, our
Which one's
first
that one?
episode, which is necessity, destruction, and creation.
Yeah, maybe.
It just goes back to
Well,
that.
they're all
Maybe
interconnected. That's
what I
why.
was thinking. I was like, it leads into the next one.
Yeah.
And also, I was thinking, I saw this one study. Is like you had to do something 24 times or 23 times in order to form a habit. You do it constantly over and over and over again. It's gonna be
It might
ingrained
be
in
similar to you need
your
like
head.
2,000 hours and something to become an expert or something.
There
like
you go,
that,
something like that.
along those lines.
Mhm.
Yeah. So why don't you read the third?
I got you.
Third
I got
episode
you.
topic.
Dichotomy of chaos and order.
Ah, yes.
Okay, this one, when I read it, I was like, what? And then I was like,
You also
yeah,
thought it
he'll
was
explain it.
probably a pretty Joe thing to say, huh?
It's another Joe thing to do. I'll be
I like
honest.
my big words. So a dichotomy is just a fancy way of saying two things that are opposite and paired.
Okay.
Or like a dyad, is you could say, is something. I'm not using the word correctly in that whole. Well, anyway, the dichotomy of chaos and order. What is chaos and what is order? Chaos is the state of total anarchy or total disarray,
Mm-hmm.
and not necessarily a bad thing.
No.
It could be, but order and chaos both don't really necessarily depict good or evil. There can be good or evil within both.
When I think about both, I'm like order. I think about a totalitarian government, so like order, and everybody needs everybody.
Like the
or
left
order,
side of order, or the evil side of
the
order.
evil side of order.
Then there's the good side of order, which is, I don't think you can have peace. I might be wrong about this, but it might be easier to have peace if there is order. But I
That's
might
true,
be
but
well, that's
chaos
something we
is
can talk
like,
about though.
I think of chaos like free will. You could do
No,
anything
you
you
can
want.
have free will and you can have order though.
It doesn't sit right in my head.
Well, it's like you can have rules to live by and still have free will.
Okay. Oh,
You know?
to an extent. That's what
Yeah.
I was thinking. Total order. That's what
Well,
I was
I
thinking.
doesn't have to be total chaos or
Yeah.
total order. It's just the dichotomy.
Yeah,
of
I was just
and,
thinking about it
and
wrong.
how it relates to humanity, specifically how we find purpose and meaning.
Mm-hmm,
And in that sense, so without delving too much into this, why don't you read the
fourth one?
fourth
Yeah,
episode?
so we could stay on time.
Yeah.
Ooh, it fell. The fourth one is destiny and free will.
See, they lead into each other.
They
man.
lead into perfect, Joe. Perfect.
I came up with this while I was running a machine at work, but so this is kind of self-explanatory: destiny and free will, fate versus choice. You know, what is there such a thing as destiny? Is there such a thing as free will? Is there such a thing as, are you destined? Are you told to do something?
I'm
or
so
are
confused
you-
when people say destined.
Mhm.
I'm like, what do you mean destined? Who told you? Aren't you just gonna live life in constant like change and just adapt?
That's almost the nihilistic point of view.
I guess I'm nihilistic. I don't even know what that means.
So nihilism is life is meaningless. There is no meaning to life, and there's no free will or destiny. It's just you're in a state of being, and then you die.
We're in a state of being, and then we die. But then we have meaning through God.
Well, so that's not nihilism.
Okay.
But anyway.
I don't believe in like, ooh, you're destined for this.
So personally, I think there is a kind of a mix of destiny and free will. I think I'm religious, obviously, but I think the spirit moves
Oh, I mean like
through things and kind of is the guiding hand of God. But at the same time, we absolutely have free will, at least from a religious phenomena.
Is it kind of like we're destined to do great things? We just have to choose to do it.
Well, that's kind of the difference between destiny and potential. But
All
we
right,
can
then
talk
I'm
about that on the
thinking about
podcast.
another
So
topic.
it's a good topic. That's yeah.
All right, next one. Consciousness and reality.
Ooh, this is gonna be a good
I
one
thought
because this ties.
I had to
in-
look back. I was like, I thought I said consciousness versus reality. You know?
No. Consciousness and reality.
And
So, the idea that I had behind this is I forget where it was, but there's this philosophical or metaphysical kind of analysis of the world or theory, more that says reality it only exists because of our perception of it,
okay,
and all of it is relativist. All of it is relativistic.
I think I read about this or I heard about this before.
It's like the if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it,
Then
did it really fall?
Did it really fall? Yeah.
So from the point of view that I heard it, they would say no, it didn't, because reality is all relative to observation.
Yeah.
Or our own observation.
I don't like that way of thinking.
It's
kinda
interesting to talk about. That's why we wanted to talk about it. So
that makes sense.
let's go on to the next point.
Sacredness.
Sacredness.
What's sacred, Joe?
Well, it depends entirely upon your moral values. Is life sacred?
So anything could be
Is faith
sacred to
sacred?
anybody.
I mean, technically, yes. Ultimately, I think there's an absolute truth, and there's things that are absolutely sacred, like time is sacred, space is sacred, life is
some people
sacred.
may not value time.
Well, but I think fundamentally, there's an argument to be made that time, space, life, and I think time, space, and life are ultimately the most things that can be considered sacred.
Is that something you believe? Only?
I think a lot more things than that are sacred, but I think objectively.
That can be relative to you, Joe.
I think objectively, no, because I'm not saying like space itself is sacred. I'm saying that every single culture has this concept of some space can be sacred.
Okay.
And the same thing with time, like worship on Sundays for Christians, or the Sabbath for Judaism, or every religion has a concept of sacred time, sacred space, and I think most, if not all, religions at least identify that life in itself is sacred because, we're here.
We're here.
and just by virtue of existing, there must be something sacred.
I see what you're talking about.
So it's not.
I could
It's not
disagree
necessarily
somehow.
that I'm saying that I think life is sacred. I'm saying that the religious phenomena, or I should say the
human experience.
not the human experience. I think there's something about space, time, and life that are innately able to be made sacred by or through the religious phenomena.
Okay. Do I skip 7?
What's 7?
Good and evil.
Oh yeah, so we're replacing that with
What was it again?
we're replacing the problem with masculinity.
I forgot already.
And no, I'm not a feminist.
You sure?
What I mean
Just
by
kidding.
this is we have a very big problem in our generation, specifically Generation Z, with emasculate men. And by that I mean we can get into whatever reason behind it on the podcast, but for whatever reason, our generation has largely emasculate men. And it's a big problem, and you can see the effects that it has on our society. I think millennials are kind of in a similar situation to us in that regard. But that's what I meant by that.
Is kind of going down. I can see what you're saying, but I see a lot of people still acting masculine. It's just
absolutely.
It's just
overall,
pocket of people.
Overall testosterone levels in young men of our age group are down.
Oh, they found microplastics in our blood.
Microplastics mimic estrogen
I love
in the body.
microplastics.
Like BPA, atrazine, microplastics like that. They mimic estrogen in the body. Soy.
Yeah, I heard this.
Mimics estrogen in the body, and so that's a lot of our diet. We're eating sugary and fatty foods, which kill testosterone. It's just a product of that. And maybe some other things, but we can get into it more on the podcast. Okay. And maybe we could also debate whether we think that's a bad or a good thing, because I think some people might find that they think it's a good thing, but other people might think it's a bad thing. So we can talk about that on the podcast.
That is
maybe
true.
Some disagreement of opinions there. Maybe we can get Scrumbus on for that one.
I think so too. I think we should have Scrumbus for this one.
Which
Number
one?
9, Love and Modern Lust.
That'd be a good one to have him on too. Yep.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, yeah.
So by this, I think you probably know what I mean. It's the difference between like true
love,
like love, willing the good of the other for the good of the other, and desiring relationship with the other.
Yep. This one's pretty simple. It's just like, oh, I lust this woman that I just saw on my phone screen for like 2 seconds. It's not based on personality or anything.
Instant gratification. And the amount.
It's not substance
at your fingertips.
Yeah.
You know. And then we can maybe talk about the like porn addictions, especially among our generation, which is huge, and stuff like that, because that's a big problem with our generation too. And ultimately,
unaccessed internet.
Just
unaccessed.
Well, and I think that ties in nicely to why a lot of young men lack purpose, is because, well, we'll get into it on the podcast.
Yeah, you're diving too deep.
I'm diving too deep. So what's the next topic?
Too excited.
Yeah.
Episode 10 is Order and Chaos. This sounds familiar. That's exactly what.
Wait, did I write it twice?
No, you didn't. This is Order and Chaos. You just did that dichotomy of chaos and order.
I wrote it twice.
Joe was so excited about this topic that he really wanted to talk about it twice. This could be a good thing. We could be talking about it once, form our opinions, and have different people on it. I don't know.
No, that one will probably be a part 2 for one of the other ones.
That's what I was thinking.
So let's skip to episode 11.
That's exactly what I was saying. I was like, this sounds familiar. Okay.
Yeah, I did not
episode
mean to write that
11, The Weight of Time.
This is a good one.
It's a good one.
Because there's one constant in life, and is that the ticking time.
We're all gonna die.
Inevitably, we all are going to die, and we have a limited amount of time here on Earth. And I see a lot of people wasting it on trivial things,
such as your phone, spending 5 hours a day on an algorithm.
Relationships with your family over just stupid matters, or, I mean, it's in my opinion, life is too short to get into stupid fights with people, to not forgive. But I mean,
to be petty.
I might be naive in that aspect, but
no.
We'll talk about it.
Joe's
We'll
right.
Talk about it.
Okay. Ooh, I'ma love this episode.
Okay. Episode 12.
Joe made this one for me.
Yeah, I did.
He did. Specialize. Escapism and discipline.
Escapism and discipline.
Escapism. I have a lot to say about escapism.
Well,
it goes back to your phone. I got this.
Okay.
It all goes back to your phone, and how Instead of spending valuable time, it goes back to the time episode.
Yep.
With loved ones or stuff that you love got through, you spend it on your phone and things that don't give you meaning but instant gratification. And when you're done using your phone, you're like, wait, I feel empty inside.
Yeah.
I feel like I spent my time doing nothing, and that time is a blur. And you look back on your memories, and you don't even see that time. If you spend that time with, it would be different if you're looking at social media with your friends and family. You're having a good laugh. You create a memory. It's like, oh, that was funny. Creating a memory about that. Creating dialogue about it. But if you had nothing of substance and it's just in your head, where's that going?
Do you think it gets to a point where you can become so addicted that you don't even realize that you're using it as a means to escape? Or do you think that's something that you don't realize until you come to a certain point, or maybe you can't realize that? In my view, it's kind of like a drug. So what do you think about that?
It is like a drug. You just have to realize. You have to realize that's like, wait a second. I mean, you have to realize that you're wasting your time.
But most people
some
don't.
people
I
don't,
think.
huh?
Most people don't.
You're wasting your time. That's all I could think about. Of course, go on your phone every now and then when you're doing nothing productive or you can't be doing anything else. I'm like, that's just filling in time.
As you can
That's
tell,
different.
Matthew is really passionate about this topic.
All
So
right.
this is why I put it in here. The reason I put discipline
I kept
there,
talking.
you did.
Discipline is be like, I'm on my phone. Wait, my family's like to my right, and they're just talking, and I'm on my phone. What am I doing?
Well, honestly, discipline, it doesn't have to be about others. It can be about yourself, self-betterment too.
Self-betterment.
Discipline is really important. Saying no is really important.
That was a powerful word.
It is. It's also very vague, but
It's hard to use
it's
sometimes.
what you have to have a certain amount of discipline to be able to put your phone down, or to be able to say, okay, no, what I'm doing right now is not benefiting me, or something was like having enough discipline to do something. That's it can go both ways. But anyway, what's
It's powerful.
the next?
Yeah, before we delve
episode.
into it, the next one is art and reflection, and I
Art
have
and
no clue about this
reflection.
one.
So this one, I wanted to talk about how art can be a reflection of reality, specifically like things like music and painting and just things of that nature, even literature or visual arts like
Anything that a
drama,
person makes
like it's
that
always a reflection of our own
is
reality.
supposed to convey
our
an
culture.
idea to someone else.
Yeah.
Or they can make their own.
And I feel like that's definitely part of the religious experience, and since it's definitely innate to our own
the choir at churches.
quest for meaning.
Mm-hmm.
So
Quest for meaning is connected.
yeah.
I would love to hear more about that. I'll have to wait a while for that.
Is this the last
And
episode?
this is the last one.
All right.
And we're right on time too. The struggle of the human experience.
The struggle.
The
So this
season
is kind of a
finale.
summary of the
Oh, I
entire
should've switched
season. That's all right. This is a summary of the entire season, and I mean that's essentially all.
Is it a summary?
It's a summary. It's kind of the conclusion or the ultimatum of what we come to in that season, of whatever we come up with in all those episodes, kind of culminating into what is the human experience.
To a long discussion.
Yeah.
And hopefully
That one is going to go overtime.
Overtime?
Oh yeah.
Which one went overtime? It was with Alex.
Yeah.
It went
but
like
no, this one's gonna
2
be like
hours.
3 hours long.
3
The
hours
season
long?
finale. Yeah.
Joe's going to keep me for 3 hours and
Yep.
be like, I want to eat. And it was like,
Captive.
no. Captive.
We'll have snacks.
Oh, snacks?
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
have snacks.
We'll have
All right, well-
pizza. Yeah.
If you guys stuck around for this long, then you must really enjoy our company. But I appreciate if you did, and if you would be so inclined, hit that smash button, smash that like button, not hit the smash button. You don't have to play the intro ads.
Okay.
But yeah, subscribe to the channel if you're new here. We talk about philosophy and space and this kind of stuff, and you can watch the AstroCast live every Friday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I think that's just about it. So we will see you all in the next segment or the next podcast, whichever you decide to watch. And yeah.
See you guys on the podcast.